Hello everyone and welcome. As you can probably tell, we are in a new space here. New place, new channel, new way of doing things. If you don't already know my face, hi, I'm Ella. I did do this sort of a thing before on another channel, and I would do my makeup and also talk about a true crime story. But the thing about that is that I hadn't done anything in like a year and a half on that channel, and apparently it got demonetized because if you're not like posting regularly, I guess it like will, I don't know what happened, but it will just be like, you have now posted, so you can no longer monetize this channel. Bye-bye. So I was like, great, awesome. But being my Sagittarius self, and I'm very optimistic, opportunistic, as one might say. Not really, but I figured, hey, this is a really good time to actually switch things up and maybe do like a rebrand and open up a new channel that is specific to true crime, because previously I had it on this channel called Ella Does Stuff, and although I like the whole Ella Does Twitch, Ella does TikTok too, Ella does whatever it is that it might be, Ella Does Stuff does not really equate in my mind to, true crime. So we are now doing this on this channel. Sorry in advance for my grumbling stomach. I just had dinner and I guess I'm digesting now. I don't know. But anyway, I figured that on this channel, what we do is sit down and talk about true crime in a way that's more like as if I'm talking to a friend about it. I don't know. I don't have very many friends who are into true crime in the sense that they want to like sit down and have a discussion about the psychology or like really weird details or forensic, discoveries, stuff like that is like interesting to me. For some reason, I'm very macabre, what is it, like very weird in that way, like, I'm into odd things, alright? So I figured that on this channel we would do like more of a podcast style where we would just sit down and talk about true crime with you on a more like friend to friend way, as if I would just be just rambling my brains out. Nothing like overly edited, overly cleaned up in that sense. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Today, I wanted to talk about a very specific case that just kind of stayed with me, and I've already filmed this once and I did not like how that turned out, so I'm gonna try it again. The reason why this case stayed with me is that there's no satisfaction behind it, and when I listen to true crime podcasts, when I watch documentaries and things like that, I want to feel a level of satisfaction. Like, I like seeing the bad guy go to jail and the family of the victim or victims receives some sort of justice for what's happened. Like, the victim just receives justice. There's something that happens and then the person or perpetrators are punished in that. Like, I like that closure in the story. I feel like most of us do. Bad things happen, that person faces consequences, end of story. Everyone is like, I wouldn't say everyone's just happy. And obviously you can never be completely happy and satisfied, because obviously someone has passed on, someone has been brutally murdered, someone has died, and it is the fault of someone else. So of course you can never ever feel, I guess, a full feeling of satisfaction in that sense, but maybe just a justice behind everything. Like, at the end of the day, someone faces consequences. But in this case, there's no consequence to face, and everything just goes wrong. Like, it just gets worse and worse, and it feels like a really badly written movie. I'm just gonna preface this by saying that, like, throughout all of these cases that I want to start bringing to you guys, I'm going to just be literally telling you like it is, like from my mind. I'm not going to be I'm not a professional bringing you these cases. I'm not like a forensic psychologist, or, you know, I'm just telling you how it is as someone who indulges in a lot of documentaries, and, you know, I watch true crime on a daily basis, and I do a lot of reading on psychology. I'm just like a regular citizen doing my own research and things like that. So please go on and do your own research afterwards if you do so feel inclined. But the thing about this is that it just plays out like a really poorly written movie. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it like, you know, when you're sitting there watching a film and you're just sitting there watching and absorbing what's happening on the screen, and you're like, who wrote this? There's no way in a bajillion, million, cajillion years that anything that I'm seeing playing out on the screen right now in front of me could ever truly happen in real life, right? That's the feeling that you get when you're listening to the story. And then you're sitting there and you're gonna probably be like, that's no way that actually happened. Are you serious? Like, that's how I felt researching this. It was just one thing after the next that I'm just like, is this for real? There's absolutely no way that this is real. But this actually happened, and I'm just gonna get into it. I have my notes here. So grab yourself a cup of something hot or something cold, depending whenever it is that you're watching this. And we're just gonna hop into it because there's a lot to get through. And when I did it the first time around, I was just babbling my head off, and it ended up being over 3 hours. And I was like, there's no way I'm uploading this onto YouTube. That's longer than an actual movie. No one will sit there and watch this. But then here I am talking for like 10 minutes straight. Today, we're going to be talking about the case of Susan Powell. I'm going to be periodically looking at my notes because I have the memory of an actual goldfish. And reading is actually supposed to help with memory loss problems. And I do have a history in my family of memory loss, so I should continue with my exercises. But anyway, I'm going to digress a lot. I'm so sorry. So this story starts off with this guy called Josh, who married Susan, the person that we are talking about today, the victim, well, one of the victims. But before we talk about Josh and Susan and how they met and how the whole story progressed after that, let's talk about Josh's background, or, well, his history. So Josh grew up with his mom, his dad, his sister, and his brother. And I would say that his upbringing was a little bit dysfunctional because his parents could not, how do I put this? They did not agree on how to raise the children, or rather, his mother was more of like, let's raise them, disciplining them on how to do things. You know, you get chores, you do little things around the house, you pitch in, and that's how you raise children. I'm assuming. I'm not a mother, but I would think that's a good way to raise children. Whereas Josh's father, Steve, now I've got a bone to pick with Steve. Steve is like a whole other essence within himself, and I'm going to veer off into that direction in just a moment. Steve and Terry, Josh's mom, didn't really agree on how to raise the children, or rather, Steve would always end up undermining Terry's authority or like parental figure in the family or in the household. Like, for example, the kids would leave dirty dishes in the sink, and Terry would just be like, could you guys clean up after yourselves? Steve would come in and be like, don't do that. That's like the woman's job. Let your mom do it. As a caveat, once Terry actually did ask Josh to clean up after himself, and he grabbed a knife and like threatened her and was like, don't push it, mom. To me, it just makes no sense. How do you raise your kid and then then they start threatening the other parent? Like, that's just really weird. I don't know. Anyway, at one point, Steve and Terry divorce, and you know how there's always like you go into court, you like tell the judge your reasons or the lawyers your reasons for the divorce. I don't know, the person had an affair, you caught them cheating, you just don't love each other anymore, I don't know, they're like spending all your money, and so there's like financial problem. There's always a reason for divorce, right? Well, Steve says that Terry is into witchcraft, which is super weird because Terry is like very, very religious. They are part of the LDS church, which, by the way, Steve, being the awesome parent that he is, persuaded the children, or like, what is it called? Like, brainwash them, or, you know, kind of like told them not to go to church anymore because the church was evil or whatever. So his reason behind why she's into witchcraft, right, is that she uses like natural remedies, like herbs and stuff, when she's got a cut or something. Like, I just don't understand how that equates to witchcraft, but Steve's on a whole other dimension. Let's just pick up Steve right now and just put him over here for a second, because we've gotta really dissect the mind of this man, but just go with me on this. Basically, he says, my reasoning for why I'm going to be divorcing this woman is that she's a witch. She's into witchcraft. And her reason for why she's divorcing Steve is, besides the fact that they have no they're not on the same page for raising their kids. She's like, the parenting thing's not working out. He's like making them not respect me as a parent. It's just a lot of like emotional or like mind games here, and I don't like that for the kid. Besides that, she says, he's obsessed with a married woman. Keep this in mind, okay? Put that in your head for later. He's obsessed with a married woman, and also obsessed with corn. Can I say it, corn? I don't know. YouTube's probably gonna flag me for this entire video anyway, but he's obsessed with corn. So you can already see a little bit of discrepancy here, just like the logic behind the both of them. Besides the fact that he's like obsessed with this specific woman from the church, right? And she's married. He's also obsessed with corn. And he's like, well, she's a witch because she uses like different spices and things. Like, there's already that weird, just oddness psychologically there. So after the divorce, Josh and his brother go and live with Steve, and Alina, his sister, goes to live with the mom. Afterwards, she goes and lives with Steve and her brothers, but I have no idea why it is that she left to go be with her mom. Like, how it is I'm not quite sure where the custody in all of this ended up being. I guess it doesn't really matter too much. We're gonna continue on with the story before I just start blabbering on and on and on and on. At one point, I did read that Josh ended up killing his sister's gerbils, which I'm not even sure if there were repercussions here. And also, while I was reading, right, I was like, okay, all of the kids went to go live with Steve. So did Steve not make the kids do, like, sir, relax. Jeez. Did Steve not, like, make them do any chores around the house? Because, like, who's doing the chores if his mentality was, well, mom's gonna clean up after the kids, but then all of, like, they go and get a divorce and all the kids go and live with him, like, who's doing the cleaning then? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the sort of thing that maybe I'm thinking too much into this. I should stop. Okay, we're gonna continue on before I just get fixated on things. Like, you see what I mean? I just sit there and, like, my ADHD brain just starts in the hamster wheel and I just start going off into different directions and nobody wants to hear that, so I'm just gonna continue on. Josh met Susan in 2000, the year 2000. Remember that? Remember the year 2000? That's 23 years now have passed. Jeez. Anyway, they met at a social event or like a gathering at the church, at the LDS church, which is very strange to me. Again, venturing, mind wandering. But didn't Josh's dad, like, not want them to go to church? And he was, like, obsessively saying, you know, the church is bad. Don't go to the church. The people at the church, they're all evil. They're this, they're that. You know, and I was reading all of this. How did Josh end up going to church then and meeting Susan? Like, that's so weird, isn't it? Like, they grew up with their dad, so what... Anyway, they meet at church. And this is really strange, but after 6 months, they get married, and Josh was 25 and Susan was 19 years old. So not like huge gap in age, but also, what are y'all doing getting married after 6 months? I can appreciate, like, you just met each other and there's like this love at first sight and I just have to marry you because of reasons, like, I don't know, if you don't get married, you won't be able to move here, or just like some kind of a legal thing. But they were both in the same like state, and you know, you probably can date someone for a while and just get to know them a bit before hopping into like a marriage. Also because she's 19. She's like fresh out of high school, like a year fresh out of high school. And this is a guy who's 25, so like he's done with the whole university thing as well, and he's like working, apparently. I'll get into that. But, what are you dating a 19-year-old for, sir? Just, anyway, Steve ends up getting obsessed with Susan at this point. So they get married, right? Josh and Susan. And Steve, Josh's dad, Steve, gets obsessed with Susan, the 19-year-old newlywed, his son's newlywed wife. He gets like obsessively fixated on her. Remember when he was fixated on that other guy's wife, on that married woman from before, from when he and Terry were married? Well, now he's obsessed with his son's wife. And here is where, like, a lot of the psychology behind these cases comes in, that just, like, rattles in the corners of my mind. Because this man has no idea how inappropriate he is. He is, like, if you were to take the dictionary and, like, look through for the word delusional, his face would be right there. And, like, I just don't understand people that have these sorts of, like, extreme delusions, and it's something that is both extremely fascinating and super scary to me, because there's no filter there. It's like he's just tunnel vision, right? He ends up writing poems about her. He writes songs about her. Like, he actually sings. He makes like video diaries of himself and he posts them. Like, there's actual video evidence that he posted this stuff, right? Online. He's got like an online blog and things. Well, I don't know if he does now, but back then did. If I can find some sort of like clips or something, I might put them here, but I'm not sure if YouTube will end up flagging them because they don't belong to me and copyright reasons and blah blah blah.
That's Susan. There's Josh. Standing with her, but I really want her. I wish she would look my way. She was so pretty today when she came over to the house. Wish the lighting was better. I know she felt it. I know she couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either, I know, from what I've read in her journals. But if she didn't notice that, she did. She had to.
I said I love you, is that a crime? And what if I said to you one more time, I love you, so put me in jail.
It gets weirder. It gets weirder if that's not already creepy enough. Like, imagine your father-in-law or mother-in-law or whoever-in-law, the parents of your significant other, just like behind the scenes writing poems about you and you're like how you smell and the beautiful the look of your hair and how you smelled this morning was amazing, how you like just all of this extremely inappropriate, creepy AF stuff. Also films her without her permission, takes photos of her without her permission, like from afar. You can see him zooming in on her, like her legs, her face while she's walking like home from work. It's just so bizarre. And not only this, the man has an actual shrine to her. Afterwards, they'll end up finding it in the home when they're doing an investigation about all this, so we'll have to circle back to this. But they end up finding, in the future, within the story, her underwear. He also has clippings of her, like, toenails, hair that he stole from a brush, used sanitary products. Okay, ladies, you know what I mean? Used sanitary products. Like, what are you doing keeping that, sir? Are you okay? That is disgusting. Even us, the people who bleed, okay, on a monthly basis, we do not want to see that. We don't want to go near it. Do you know how it just, like, I can't even imagine the smell. The man, like, had them for years. Can you imagine the smell? He also wrote songs, like I mentioned, love songs, posted them on his online diary, and he said that he secretly knew that she knew he was watching him, and she liked it. Even though this girl had absolutely no idea that he was like filming her behind her back and stealing her used sanitary products and underwear and hair and clippings and things. But she knew and secretly liked it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm filming her without her permission. She's never once seen me or looked at me or had mentioned it, but secretly she knows. She knows. She likes it. You see what I mean? Like, that delusion is so scary. I don't like it. I don't like that at all. At one point, he ends up accidentally recording himself, confessing his love to her while he's like driving her somewhere. And if I can find the clip, I will play it for you now.
Fantasize that she'll come down here and join me, but so far that's a daydream that hasn't come true.
It'd be great to go to Colorado and see a different part of the U.S., you know?
Yeah. I'm probably wrong, but I've really fallen in love with you. Maybe I'm interpreting something that I shouldn't be interpreting. You know, it just, for example, when we were sitting on the couch, it just felt like you were very, you know, I mean, I was extremely aroused, and I think you were somewhat aroused, at least I thought.
I don't know where you're going with this.
And Susan, yeah, well, I'll tell you where
I'm married to your son, and I should just be the daughter-in-law.
I know.
Which puts me a step beneath your own children.
Okay.
And that's where I'm comfortable. I was kind of meaning to talk to you about this. My own father doesn't kiss me, and you kiss me, and I didn't like that.
You don't want me to hug you either. That's fine.
So yeah, you can see he's totally insane in the membrane, okay? He misinterprets everything. Like when she's like, I feel like this is inappropriate. Like she's obviously creeped out and showing her, like this is weird, uncomfortableness. But in his brain, he's like, yeah, she likes me even more for this. Now she knows how I feel, and she digs it. Like this, I have no words. I have no words for this man. He's just on another level of weird, creepy. So obviously she rejects him, and he interprets this as, yes, she's secretly in love with me. She rejected me, and so she secretly loves me. Because logically, that's exactly what like, just I'm telling you guys, if you have children, right? I don't have children, okay? It might be a while till that happens. But if you have children, teach your children that if someone is picking on them, that does not mean that they like them. I mean, I understand the psychology between like, oh, she's teasing me, so that must mean she's got a crush on me. But like, if someone is like, I don't like you that way, teach your kids that if the other person says no, it means no. You know, it doesn't mean like, I'm gonna just keep on, yeah, she likes me, yeah. Like, that's just teach your kids that no means no, maybe. You know? I'm not a mother yet, not a parent yet, but like, I think that's pretty sound advice. If someone's telling you, I'm not interested, probably best to be like, okay, that person's not interested. Not get fixated on them. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just my 2 cents. At this point, Josh and Susan moved to Utah to move away from Steve, probably. I don't know. She's probably super creeped out, and so I'm thinking in my head, she's probably like, okay, we need to move away from your dad. The situation is a little too close, because after that they got married, they moved in with Steve. So I think that at that point Susan was like, no, we need to distance ourselves from your dad. Let's leave. So I think that's the reasoning. Anyway, they move away, right? She writes in her diary that she thinks he is a schmedderschmeil. A schmedderschmeil. I can't say the word. I don't know why YouTube does not like us saying certain things, but I'm just gonna say schmedderschmeil. Keep this in mind for later, by the way. The schmedderschmeil thing. Steve, at this point, continues professing his love for her. He sends her letters and nudes at this point. Clearly not taking the hint. She's not reciprocating this at all. She's not leading him on at all. I just want to make this like absolutely clear. She writes in her diary like, he is so creepy. Absolutely not. I even think he's a schmedderschmeil. Like, just no. And he's like, yeah, this must mean I must send her nude photographs of myself. Like, I'm sorry, but like, these types of people just get under my skin. Like, they exist. Like, they're out there. There are people out there who are like this. Can you imagine? They're like among us. So from 2005 to 2007, their kids are born. They have 2 boys. And Susan, at this point, is working 2 jobs, right? She is a stockbroker and also a cosmetologist on the side, while Josh is struggling to even hold on to 1 job. So she's the main breadwinner of the house, and Josh is kind of like bouncing from place to place, can't hold on to a job for very long. Apparently he has a big issue listening to authority. Let's circle back to the beginning. I wonder why it is that he can't handle doing what he's told. Could it, A, have something to do with the fact that every time his mom told him, clean the dishes, Josh, his father would be like, don't do that. Your mom's gonna do that. Yeah, you don't have to do it. Or B, there's no B. There's no other explanation for this. I'm pretty sure this is exactly why he can't hold a job or listen to authority. But that is my opinion. Don't come for me, please. I'm just expressing my opinion. You're here on my channel. We're talking as friends. I'm talking to you as if, you're sitting right here having your coffee with me. You probably think the same thing. If someone grew up never having to do anything because their parents were undermined by another parental figure, authority, above them, and told them, don't do that, don't listen to your mom, don't listen to the other person of authority, do whatever you want. At that point, you're growing up knowing or like feeling as though you don't really have to listen to anyone above you. Like, why should they be above me? I'm also up there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't really have that thing of listening to anyone above you. Yeah, you get it. At this point, Josh is ending up racking up a huge debt, and it's all kind of like on Susan to bring home the money, the moolah, the bread. And Josh is using her money to fund his weird obsession with like collecting a bunch of crap. No offense. But, like, he's just buying stuff that he doesn't even use, and he puts it all into the garage. Like, he buys a workout equipment that he never uses, computer parts, what is it called? Like, one of those helicopter toy things, like, just a lot of robotics stuff. I don't know, that he never uses. Not even like toys for the kids and stuff like that. Like just stuff for himself. And then he puts it in the garage. But he's using her money to buy it. And not only that, he limits her own spending with her own money to buy groceries for the household. Like, how does that even... I can't even compute that. Like, poor Susan. But just like... I'll be damned if my partner were to just not do anything and take my money and tell me how to spend my money and be like, yank the paycheck out of my hands and just be like, yeah, well, you're gonna buy X, Y, Z amount of groceries and not a penny more, but I'm gonna go ahead and buy this, like, computer. Absolutely not. Like, that's no. So we went through all of like the backstory and every little thing leading up to right now. But just as a forewarning, moving forward, I'm going to be talking about child death. So that is a big trigger warning now, as well as suicide. So that is also a huge trigger warning. So if any of that makes you uncomfortable, you can click off of the video now, but I'm going to move on with the actual case of what happens next, because all of the stuff that I just talked about was just kind of little breadcrumbs, little trail leading up to this big mess of a situation. Sometime in 2009, a friend of Susan's comes to their house to hang out. And at this point, what ends up happening is Josh comes home from work. At this point, he has a job apparently. And he offers to make the girls some pancakes. He's like, I'll make you guys some pancakes. Yeah, awesome, for dinner. And both Susan and her friend kind of look at each other like, because, like I said, Josh didn't really grow up in a household that prioritized him pitching in at all, and he's not really used to doing his share, like, within the household. He doesn't really cook. He doesn't really clean. He's just kind of, like, there. But, you know, it's kind of odd that he's offering to make food. So he makes the girls pancakes, and at some point after dinner, you know, Susan and her friend are talking, and Susan's like, I've got a bit of a headache. I don't feel very well. So I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And they like say bye to each other, and she feels ill, right? And she goes to bed. And this is the last we're ever gonna see of Susan. Like, that, her friend was like one of the last people to ever see Susan ever, not even alive, because we'll never be able to know what happened to Susan, but I'll get into that in a second. The next day, neither Susan nor Josh show up at work. Coworkers and family members end up getting like worried, obviously, because they've never missed a day of work. Like, she's never missed a day of work until that point. Up until that point, Josh had never missed a day of work. And the kids also did not end up going to daycare. So friends and family are like, kids are not at daycare. Josh isn't at work. Susan isn't at work. Oh my God. They start putting two and two together, and they end up thinking, what if someone left the car on in the garage, and like the family is passed out at home with like carbon monoxide poisoning. Something happened, like they're all just passed out. So they send the police over to do a welfare check. So the police end up going there to do this wellness check, and they end up breaking in, as one would if there's like concern that the family has passed out, obviously. But they go in, no one's home, except they find these two great big box fans, two of them, pointed at a wet spot in the carpet on the floor. It looks like it's been freshly cleaned, and they're just like on, drying it out. A little bit suspicious, if you ask me. Later that same day, Josh ends up coming home with his 2 boys, and the police talk to him, and they're like, where were you? Why weren't you at work? And why weren't the kids at daycare? And he says he brought the kids out on a spontaneous camping trip. Keep in mind, this is in the middle of winter, and the day before it was blizzarding. So why are you bringing the kids out on a camping trip while it's like snowing and blizzarding, and the next day you've got work? Sir. Okay, we believe you. He says he's often spontaneous like that. Sure, Josh. Police are already suspicious about Josh at this point because he's just like very sketchy, and like just the way that he's responding is just off. So they ask him, why did you go like on a Sunday when you have work the next day? And he goes, oh, I thought today was actually Sunday. I thought yesterday was Saturday. I got my, like, the whole weekend is a blur. And I thought that today was Sunday. It's Monday. Also, why would you leave 2 giant fans running in your house if you're like gone the whole day camping? I guess he could say, oh, I thought Susan was home, so she was looking after the running fans. But even so, like, the next day she'd be at work. So wouldn't you think, why would you even leave them on? Right? Anyway, I'm like overthinking again. Ugh. Even Steve, his father, ends up writing in his journal that he's like sketched out by this, and he's like, I don't really think that they'd go out camping. He's not the type. And also, I'm not sure where Susan is, and Josh, I don't know, it's just all kind of weird. You know that something is off when the creepy weirdo says something feels weird and sketch about the whole situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, even the weirdo is saying something's off. So the police are like, so where's Susan? She didn't go to work either. And Josh's theory is that she ran off with another man who had also recently gone missing around this time. And she's never met this guy before, right? He's just pulling this out. He probably saw this happening on TV or something and was like, yeah, he just went missing. She probably ran off with him. Like, where do you get, like, how... Just makes me... I don't know where some people, like, how their brains work is so fascinating to me. Like, you don't even... How do you... It feels like a child making up an excuse, like a kid trying to lie. Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys, people who have siblings, right? And like, there's like candy on the counter and you take like 5, and then your parents come home and they're like, where'd all the candy go? And you're like, was him, not me. Like, trying to immediately put the blame on something else, on someone or something else. It just feels like very immature to me. I don't know. Not saying that people should be well versed in lying, but just being like, it feels very obviously fake. Do you know what I mean? Is it just me? No. So police end up investigating her workplace and the house. At the house, they end up finding little droplets of Susan's blood just everywhere, poorly cleaned as well. And at her workplace, like, this is the part where I'm telling you, like, when I was researching this and watching docuseries on it, this part made me feel like it was like a very poorly written Lifetime movie, because they end up looking through her desk at work, right, opening up all of the drawers and things, and they find this letter written by Susan that was like, if anything ever ends up happening to me, if I ever go missing randomly, if you do not see me anymore, know that Josh probably had something to do with it. When I saw that, when I read that, I was like, they end up actually also finding a VHS, like a recording that she made, like a little video vlog of herself. And she was going around the house, in the garage, in the living room area, in the computer room, and she was just kind of like filming all of their assets in case something ended up happening to the family or to her or something. She was like, okay, this is Josh's computer, and it was so and so amount of money, and this is the VHS DVD player, and it was like 200, and then she just did that, etc., for everything that they owned that was like main stuff, electronics, gadgets, stuff like that. And if I can find the video, I will pop it in now.
This is me, July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after, as much as that's possible. Charlie, you see that? 11:44 a.m. And I am documenting all our assets just in case of any emergencies, fire, flood, damage, disputes. And we have 2 Samsung monitors. And this is Josh's computer, and there's some type of backup device and speakers. And here's the kind of pimping out stuff he's done to his computer. He built it himself. I think there's like 5 hard drives, something about doing raids. There's those for all the computer geeks. And Josh locked this, but this is all of his files. See, locked. Those are his files. And he bought expensive stuff, like these are, I think this was like a couple of $1,000 of, like, it says graphic design templates by Stock Layouts or something like that. Alright, here's our unfinished basement. We bought 3,000 pounds of wheat, and these are buckets of wheat. See? And this one, whoops. Chemical-free hard white wheat with mint green gum, and red wheat with mint gum. So there's a whole bunch of boxes of, or buckets of it. Here is a rigid saw. I don't know the differences. I think this is a chop saw. Oh, there we go. It says miter saw utility vehicle MSUV. Oh, that's the holding thing of it. And there is a shop vac. This is all stuff bought in a year or less through Home Depot on my credit. Josh bought a lot of stuff and then he had to bankrupt it. And then he bought a little bit more on my credit. There's a nice lamp. These are things to roll wood with. Oh, there's his RC car. It's pretty pimped out. If you can see that stuff. I think he's got probably a 3,000 worth of supplies in the RC car world. It's a beauty salon chair. We got Urco chairs. And here is our safe. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to press the code. Okay. So, things are fairly organized. I've got all sorts of files. This is all thanks to me trying to save them. Whole lot more tools. So we bought drill sets. Here's a nail gun by Boss Stitch. Here's a rigid small drill, or Milwaukee drill. a rigid, I think that's a sander of some sort. There's another rigid saw. Paint supplies. This is all of Josh's RC car stuff. You are with me. I'm told it's like worth $3,000. There's lots of it everywhere. There's more RC car parts. Yeah, we got that rigid step ladder. There's some fans. Okay, now we're upstairs. Here's another saw, drill. There's another RC car and remote. Here's a laptop. So it's expansion port 3. I don't know what kind it is. There's part of the phone. Books. These are the ones that we felt should be out. These books my mom gave me, beautiful brown encyclopedias. There's a wedding picture. This remote, I guess, is like $300. Justified by a babysitter to be able to run our TV. WA is the brand. 5-disc CD or DV, I don't know, stereo system. There's this one of the speakers, 2, 3, 4, 5. We added these lights, chandelier. Josh claimed that was a birthday present, I think, for me. Alright. Hoverstorm, you bought a stupid hovercraft remote control toy. Keys and locks. Cooking, cleaning supplies. There's another remote by the Clorox on the right. This is recycling and garbage. There's our washer. Duet, HT, Whirlpool. Front loader, and there's the dryer. We got it at the Scratch and Dent at RC Willie's when we first moved here in 2004, like March, April. PC, hard disk camcorder, micro S, HD, 30 GB, 7 to 37 hours, 4 recording modes, hybrid, Everradio, Conoco Minolta lens. And I had necklaces too. I don't know where those are. I just got in a rage, as you can see, and broke this. There's duds and pearls and opals in there. Broke this and threw all my DVDs and made a mess because he was angry at me. This was about a year or two back.
Now, Josh, being in IT, even made a website for his wife, but it was more about him rather than anything to do with, like, Susan and, you know, the fact that she's missing. It was more of, like, the police are on this, like, wild goose chase, like, manhunt, witch hunt, everyone is after me, they think I had something to do with it, woe is me, poor me, just like everything, the narrative was very much on himself, making himself look like more of a victim. He was saying people were like all against him, even the LDS church was against him, his whole family was against him, you know, everyone was suspicious about him, and that was just so horrible for him. Rather than being like, I don't care about what you guys have to say about me. Can we put the focus on my missing wife? Like, I need to find her. I just don't understand how anyone could be just so selfish if he didn't actually do anything, which I'm pretty sure he did. Like, it's just so obvious that he did something to Susan. Shouldn't he be using that website to spread information and news about Susan and, like, updates and just stuff about her so that he could get her back if he's so dead set sure that she ran off with the guy or, like, was taken by the guy or whatever it is that he made up? Steve also helps with this, with, like, her diaries and stuff, and they try to spin this narrative using diaries from when she was like 15 years old, right? Clippings of her 15-year-old self writing stuff in her diary. Like, what would you write when you were 15? Oh, like, I just want to like leave everyone behind and run off and just start a new life. Like, I'm so over everybody. Like, that sort of stuff is like what you'd write in a diary when you're 15, right? So they take snippets of her diary when she was 15 years old, because Susan was like an avid journaler. She would journal all the time. She'd just write all of her feelings and everything down, which is so helpful, obviously, because they have like a lot of information about everything based on her journals, which we'll get into. And even that note that they found like in her desk at work, so you can see she's the sort of person. She even did a whole video diary about like her assets and things. She's the sort of person that documents or likes to document her life on a day-to-day basis. She's very meticulous that way. So of course she kept her diaries from when she was 15, but you wouldn't really take stuff of what someone says when they're like 15. You wouldn't really take that as gospel for how they're feeling at 21, 22, 23, 24 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you were 15, you felt a certain way, but that's not necessarily how you feel when you're 27, you know? So they were using those diary entries to be like, you see, she was mentally unstable. So she may have just actually run away on her own accord, you know, just on her own free will. We're like, of course, obviously she was mentally ill and so she ran away. Show me a mentally stable 15-year-old. I'd like to meet just one. Go ahead. I'll wait. So Susan's parents end up obtaining a cease and desist order just to kind of like make them stop defaming her, like, on the internet and spreading all of these really weird, different false narratives and, you know, putting the focus away from trying to find her into more of like a reason why she would run away. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're making a website to try and bring a person back home because you're so dead set something bad happened to them or they ran away, help me find them missing, right? You don't know what's happened, they're missing. Why would you give reasons as to why they'd run away? It makes it so that the public doesn't take it seriously. It makes it so that they're like, oh, well, she's an adult. She probably had some issues in her relationship, in her marriage, as we all do. And here and here and here, it's very clear that she's mentally unstable. So, of course. So, investigators are continuing with the case, even though there aren't any leads at this point. Except when they look at the website for missing Susan, they see that Steve is in possession, of course, of her diary entries from when she was 15. So they're like, wait a second, you have her diaries? Hold on a second, that might actually be super important because we can see that she's an avid journaler. So we're going to need those diaries. There might be like some pertinent information or something that could help us with the investigation since we don't know where she is. We have no suspects, nothing. We're kind of sus on, you know, Josh, but we don't have any like concrete evidence. So we need those diaries, right? So they end up going to Steve's and go through his computer and they find all of the things that he has saved of her videos, all of the diary entries, the video vlogs that he's done, all of the songs that he's written and composed for her, all of the stuff that he saved of hers, you know, her underwear and stuff like that. And also, Josh's brother gets investigated as well at this point because he'd recently scrapped his car, you know, in a junkyard, and he was inquiring about like satellite images that he could get of the junkyard? Like, could I get some pictures of the junkyard? Just want to see, like, why are you so curious about who's going in to go see who's going into the junkyard to take a look at your car and stuff like that? Like, why are you throwing out like a perfectly good car? You know, police aren't stupid. They have sources that'll tell them that you're doing this stuff. Like, it's not just a movie where you just do stuff under the radar and then no one will ever find out. So they end up going to this car, right? And cadaver dogs, you know, the dogs who like sniff out dead bodies or decomposing bodies, well, they alert to the trunk of the car, but then when they open the trunk, there's no one or nothing in there, but the dogs alerted to it. So could it have been that Josh's brother lent him that car to transport Susan's body somewhere where it was eventually dumped out there in the middle of who knows where when they went camping? And then when Josh brought the car back, he called up his brother and was like, you gotta take this car, dump it somewhere, drive it off into some, just like get rid of it, and then took his car and went home with his car instead of his brother's. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother is probably thinking that as well. But they even interview Susan and Josh's two boys, and the boys are like, yeah, we went camping, we went into the middle of the woods, and Mommy was in the car. Mommy was sleeping in the trunk. Now, of course, they're like 4 years old at this point, 4, 3, and you can't really like take their word on it like as 100% real, but the fact that the dogs alerted to the trunk, and the boys are also saying, well, Mommy was sleeping in the trunk, like, just kind of as someone investigating this, you'd probably put 2 and 2 together and be like, I think that there's enough circumstantial evidence at least to be like, Josh, we're kind of sus on you and we're gonna need to bring you down. But apparently this was not enough proof. Anyway, police do end up visiting the campsite, and the cadaver dogs did end up alerting to like a spot on the ground somewhere, and they dug it up, but there was nothing there. They don't know, maybe it might have been like a decomposing animal at some point, but nothing was found. No human remains, at least. So nothing went on with that. But here's the thing, right? If you're already sus on someone who may or may not have brought their deceased partner out into the wilderness, I'm not quite sure, like, are they certain that he's telling them the correct coordinates? Because I'm just saying, it's not hard for someone to lie and be like, yeah, this is where we went, period. Like, there's no GPS like or tracking at that point as far as I'm aware. So how were they able to, like, yeah, he's telling the truth, you know what I mean? Can't really take the word of someone who may or may not have effectively murdered their spouse. How like, if you can murder your spouse, you can probably lie as well. But maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. Like, maybe the detectives are smarter than me and they just know something that I don't. So anyway, as I was saying before, police get this search warrant to search through Steve's stuff to get Susan's journals. And Steve is just out here doing the most, man. He's just out here giving, like, all of these interviews. And he's saying, like, oh, Susan came on to me all the time. We had, like, a secret love going on. But nothing could happen because she was married to my son. But she loved me. Like, we had this thing, like, this chemistry. Like, Again, the delusion here, it makes me sick. But anyway.
I didn't want them to have my journals. There's some very embarrassing things in my journals.
Not only do the police find all of this stuff, right? All of the pictures, all of the videos, all of the stuff that he has collected of Susan's, they also end up finding like a secret folder that was like titled Neighbors, Girls, Secret Window, Bathroom, like something like that. Like, make with those words what you will. But they end up clicking on this secret file on his computer, and they find thousands of photos of these two little girls under the age of 10. Like, one was 10 and one was 8 years old, taken from their bathroom window, like the old neighbors that used to live next door to Steve's. They moved, but when they lived there, he'd take photos from their bathroom window of moments where they're like, you know, in their most intimate moment. Like, when you're in the bathroom, what do? You're either on the toilet or you're taking a shower, or like one or the other. What else are you, like, that's what a bathroom is for. So he was taking photos of them either on the toilet doing what they're doing, or showering, like in the nude, like just zoomed in photos, all of the just most disgusting. I am trying to understand psychologically why someone, I guess it's like a voyeurism type of thing, where they just like looking and knowing that the person isn't aware. But then the added fact that it's like, it's not even like a consensual thing, A, and B, they're children, you disgusting man. As if you were not already disgusting enough, right? You are like the lowest of the low at this point. Just abhorrent. Just throw that man out. Just toss him out. Disgusting. Gross. So Susan was 100% when she wrote in her journal. Remember when she wrote, I think he's a schmetaschmile? She probably noticed something. Like, I feel like she was very vigilant. Remember, she wrote everything very meticulously. She knew things. She's like, if something happens to me, Josh did it. Like, she was very on point, okay? She must have known, like, she must have sensed something. You know, people are always like, women's intuition, it's just like an old wives' tale. It's like a fable kind of a thing. But I feel like Susan, she sussed that guy out so quickly. She's like, I feel like there's something really off about him, like, besides the fact that he's creeping on me 24/7 and just makes me so uncomfortable. I think he's also a schmetaschmile. Like, she was so on it. So at this point, he is sentenced to 13 months in prison and 5 years for child schmorography, or CP. So since Josh and his kids were living at Steve's house while all of this was happening, the state has to take custody of the kids, because like the house is under investigation, now your father is under investigation, and you're also acting suspiciously, so you're under investigation. This whole house is now like an investigation zone, because there are, you know, computers here with disgusting things on them. There are you know, evidence in the form of her journals here. Like, you all have to leave, right? And we're going to take these kids because we're already on the fence about how safe they are with you. Keep this in mind, because if the state is already kind of like, unsafe with you, there's probably a reason behind that, right? Anyway, they place them under the custody of Susan's parents. So their grandparents from mom's side. And Josh at this point is like seething. He does not like the fact that his kids are with mom's side of the family, and he continues to feel like he's being persecuted, like everyone is against him, and there's like a giant conspiracy against him, and the police hate him, and his family is against him, like his sister and stuff, and the church, and Susan's parents also, and like the state, everyone is against him. As if he can't quite understand, like, there are reasons for why people are suspicious of you. It's not like just you seeing some random person on the street and being like, you did something bad. I don't know you. I don't know anything about your life. I don't know anything about you. But I feel like, in my soul, you did something awful. It's like there's evidence to show that you're probably a little bit sus, alright? That's all we're saying. So we're going to just go ahead and take these kids from you until we figure this whole thing out, until we figure out where Susan is, or if, in fact, you had anything to do with her disappearance. You know, there's like reasons for why people might not completely trust you, right? And he's just like, ugh, everyone's against me for no reason. And at this point, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, does the delusion run in the family? Like, is everyone in this family just like, yoo-hoo, anyone home? No? Okay. I don't know, just asking. Josh ends up setting up another web page, because he's good at that, accusing his in-laws of manipulating and brainwashing Brayden and Charlie, the two boys, his sons. So again, with the victimization, like, everyone's against me and they're brainwashing my kids now as well, like, and there's no proof of that. But you can't take accountability, or like, I can see why people are sus of me. Like, no, they're brainwashing my kids. No proof of that, but you can't really understand or see why people would be weirded out with you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's like there's nothing going on there to take any responsibility or accountability for oneself, but then being able to, it's hypocrisy, I feel like, but also just something there that's really messed up and missing. There's a link that's missing. I have to Google that. Like, I'm so curious about that. So in 2011, there's a mandatory psych evaluation that happens with Josh, and he's found to have okay parenting skills. And surprisingly, he's held on to a job for like a while. And so he's financially stable, and he's an okay dad, they say. They found. He's okay. But they also noted that he suffered from a string of paranoid thoughts. No Sherlock. And he believed that the LDS Church would kidnap his children, and that the Mormon police took away their granddad, Steve. So he's telling them, like, the church took your granddad away. Like, I get that you don't want to tell your kids, look, grandpa is a sick weirdo and he was taking photos of children and that's illegal, so he went to prison. But like, making it so that the church is evil is also just a way of brainwashing your kids as well, right? So, and then he's saying that his mother and father-in-law are brainwashing the kids. So he doesn't really quite get that he's literal. I think it's projection. I think that's what it is. I think psychologically it's called like projection, when you're doing the thing that you're accusing other people of doing. It's like a form of like, right? Yeah. Also, at this point, why is he defending Steve? Steve is a sick weirdo. Your dad is a sick weirdo. Why are you being like, they took him away from us? Why are you still on his side? You just found out he's been taking photos of children, and you have children, and they've been living in the house with their granddad, the sick weirdo, and you're just like, they took him away. Good. It's good that they took him away. Hello? I don't get it. I need to move on from this, because otherwise I'm just gonna like, my brain is just starting to fry. Like you start seeing steam come out of my ears. That's probably what's happening. He also tells his children that the Mormon police is gonna soon take him as well. Like, just a lot of random storytelling and just manipulation with the children, like trying to take them away from the church. Because remember, Susan's parents are very dedicated, like, church going people. So I guess they're trying to also bring the kids like into the fold, or like bringing them to church, try to get them like a sense of community, try and get them a sense of normalcy and like function in a life that has been thus far unfunctional, unstable. I guess so. He's like just telling them these little weird things to make them feel like, oh, I don't want to go there, like grandma and grandpa, if they're ever like, oh, we should go to church. No, because the church took away my granddad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it would just be a lot of, I can't imagine just the emotional toll it would take on these children, because kids, they believe their parents generally. Like, if like an adult is telling you, see, this place is very bad, and then like grandparents who you've never seen like as much as you have your dad, who has basically raised, but like has been in your life more than grandparents, you'd probably be like, I trust my dad more because he like grew me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot. But the report also notes how he is overbearing with his son. So again, lots of control, manipulation, the emotional kind of like turmoil. So he's good at some things as a parent, like functional, like he could probably get them dressed and feed them and, you know, make sure that they do their schoolwork and stuff on time, like just very like the functional things. But then when it comes to the emotional growth of the children, he's very like wishy-washy. That's what the report states. Anyway, he's allowed visitation with his kids, but it has to be supervised, okay, by a state-approved social worker. So someone has to come there and like physically sit there and watch as he has like a play date or like a lunch with his kids. He cannot be alone with them, basically. But since he's been living at Steve's, remember everyone had to leave that space because it was like, you know, being investigated. Now that he has these supervised visits, he is required, and it's mandatory, that he get his own place that's not Steve's house in order to have these supervised visits. So once you get a house that's like not living at your creepy child predator father's place, then you may have these supervised visits with your kids. So he ends up renting this house just a few miles away from Steve's house, but it's all just like a huge guise, basically, because he does not live at that house. He ends up living at Steve's, but only goes to that house to have his supervised visits with his kids, which I also just don't understand this, right? Why are you wasting money renting a house, right, that you're already paying for? And then, like, why would you go to your dad's where it's like, it holds like bad memories, I am assuming, like just like knowing that Susan was there and Steve was there and he was like watching the kids from the bedroom window. Like, don't you have that creepy factor, like that feeling like, I don't want to stay in this house anymore, it's just bringing up too many bad memories, plus I'm already paying rent in that place over there, I might as well just stay there, right? Why are you wasting money? Like, Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you going there just for the visits and then going to live, like, back at Steve's house the rest of the time? There are just some questions here that I wish I had, like, I wish I could ask someone and just be like, why is that psychologically? What is that doing? But, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I just get really fixated on a couple of things and my brain just sticks there for like probably a little bit too much, and I don't know. And I don't know, but we'll just keep going here. Let's keep going. So January of 2012, police find on Josh's computer thousands of photos of cartoon corn, of CP cartoon corn, and schmestiality, animal corn with people. Okay? Are we following? I can't say the words, but I hope that you're following. He's like, I don't know what that is. Never seen that in my life, and he's adamant they are not his, 100% not his. But at this point, he ends up having to do a mandatory psychosexual evaluation if he wants to continue with the mandatory visits, and I'm assuming it's because your dad just got booked for having CP on his computer, and now we're finding it on your computer, and granted, it's like cartoon CP, so not technically, so we can't really like do anything about it, but it's there. So is this like, do you know what I mean, like a foreshadowing of something? Is it like a psychologically, does it run through the family? Like, we've already seen that it was found with your dad, so is it slowly going, like, are you going to become like your father, and are the children safe with you if we find these things on your computer? You know what I mean? But what ends up happening is that they do an investigation, and the computer wasn't even his computer. Like, the laptop belonged to Susan, who got it secondhand off of like other people who used to go to the church, the LDS church that she went to, that her parents go to. They don't know, or they don't want to say who this computer belonged to. Apparently it's known who this computer belonged to, but they didn't face any repercussions or anything like that, because they could probably be like, yeah, we also got this computer secondhand, so now it's like third hand, given to Susan, like as a, you know what I mean? It can't be proven that they also downloaded or had these things. Anyway, it was Susan's laptop that she also got secondhand, so all of this super useless to the case, but it did stall his whole process for getting his kids back, and made it more difficult to get his kids back, basically. So psychologically, it's starting to take a toll on him that they found this evidence to be like, this is also another reason why you're gonna have to have these mandatory visits, but then they actually find out that the computer wasn't actually his. So I guess it's all just taking a toll on him. It's all just too much. And the 1st of February 2012, Josh fails to regain custody of his kids. So they are now officially in the custody of Susan's parents, and he just gets supervised visits. Like, he's no longer legally attached to these children. Like, of course they're always going to be his children, but he will not be able to have them live with him full time, which is what he wants, because he is deranged. And I'm allowed to say that because this is my channel and it's my opinion. He is deranged and wants everything to be his way or the highway, because what ends up happening is so indicative of that fact. Like, there's absolutely no way anyone can change my mind that this man is like just a psychopath, because what ends up happening is literally, if I can't have them, no one will be able to have them. So the 5th of February, Child Protective Services go to Josh's at 12 p.m. and the kids are so excited. They run up to the house, like leaving all of the doors of the cars open, and this CPS worker is like right behind them, closing up the car, maybe locking it up, and she's like right behind them, and Josh is like, "Come in, I have a surprise for you," to the two boys. And they're like, "Yay!" And they rush up the stairs, go inside. Josh looks at the social worker and like shuts the door in her face, and she's down the steps and she's like, okay. And at first she thought maybe there was like a rush of wind or something and he's gonna open the door in like 5 seconds, but she's like walking up the steps, but he's not opening the door. And so she knocks, but he won't open the door. So that is obviously concerning, because these are called supervised visits for a reason. It's not, you guys have your visit and I'll just wait by the steps by my car out here for like 2 hours until you're done, and then you open the door and let the kids out. No, they're supervised for a reason, because we cannot trust you alone with the children, that sort of a thing. But let me just go ahead and tell you guys how frustrated I am, okay? The police call made by the supervisor for these visits, for these supervised services, whatever it is that she does, is the most disturbing, most frustrating, most annoying phone call to a dispatcher, like a police dispatcher, that I've ever heard in my entire life. And I will put the call in here so you can be just as frustrated as me, because I cannot be the only one like sitting here being frustrated for everyone. We're all gonna have to feel the same pain, okay?
14.
Hey, I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house, and the parent, the biological parent, whose name is Josh Powell, will not let me in the door. What should I do?
What's the address?
It's 8119, and I think it's 89th. I don't know what the address is.
Okay, that's pretty important for me to know.
I'm sorry, I can't. Just a minute. Let me get in my car and see if I can find it. Nothing like this has ever happened before at these visitations, so I'm really shocked. And I could hear one of the kids crying, but he still wouldn't let me in. Okay, it is just a minute, I have it here. You can't find me by GPS?
No.
Okay, it is, I still can't find it. But I think I need help right away. He's on a very short lease with DSHS, and CPS has been involved. And this is the craziest thing. He looked right at me and closed the door. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting to know where you are.
Okay. It's 8119 189th Street, Court East, Puyallup, 98375. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because I smell gasoline and he won't let me in.
You want to pull out of the driveway because you smell gasoline, but he won't let you...
He won't let me in.
He won't let you out of the driveway?
He won't let me in the house.
Whose house
He's got
is
the
it?
kids in the house and he won't let me in. It's a supervised visit.
I understand. Whose house is it?
Josh Powell.
Okay, so you don't live there, right?
No, I don't. No, I'm contracted to the state to provide supervised visitation.
I see. Okay. And who is there to exercise their visitation?
I am. And the visit is with Josh Powell.
And who
And he
supervises?
is the husband that I supervise.
So you supervise and you're doing the visit?
Yeah,
You're
I
supervising
supervise
yourself?
I supervise myself. I'm the supervisor here.
Wait a minute. If it's a supervised visit, you can't supervise yourself. If you're the
I
visitor.
do supervise myself. I'm the supervisor for the supervised visit.
Okay, well, aren't you the one making the visit, or is there another
I'm
parent
the one.
that you're supervising?
No, I'm the one that supervises. I pick up the kids at their grandparents.
Yes. And then who visits with the children?
Josh Powell.
Okay, so you're supposed to be there to supervise Josh Powell's visit with the children.
Yes, that's correct.
And how did
And he's the husband of missing Susan Powell. This is a high-profile case.
how did he gain access to the children before you got there?
I was one step in back of them.
Okay, so they
He
went
shut
into the
the
house
door
and
in
then he
my face.
locked you out.
Yes,
Okay.
he shut the door right in my face.
All right, now it's clear. Your last name?
My name is Elizabeth Griffin Hall.
Griffin Hall is hyphenated?
Yes.
And what's your phone number, Elizabeth?
This cell phone number is 360-990-9955.
And what agency are you with?
Foster Care Resource Network. And the kids have been in there by now approximately 10 minutes. And he knows
How
this
many
is
children?
a supervised visit. 2. Braden is 5 and Charlie is 7.
Your dad's last name?
Powell, P-O-W-E-L, L.
2 L's? 2 L's at the end of Powell?
Yes.
His first name?
His first name is Josh.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, native,
He's white.
date of birth,
I don't know. He's about 39.
how tall,
5'10", 150 pounds.
hair color.
Brown.
Did you notice what he was wearing?
No, I didn't notice what he was wearing.
Is he alone then, or is anybody
I
else?
don't know. I couldn't get in the house.
Are you in a vehicle now or on foot?
I'm in a vehicle. I'm in a Prius, a
color?
2010 Prius,
What color
with
is
the
it?
doors locked. But he hasn't opened the door.
Ma'am,
I rang the
careful.
doorbell and everything.
What color
I
is it?
begged him to let me in.
Elizabeth, please listen to my questions. What color is the Toyota Prius?
Gray, dark gray.
And the license number?
I don't know. I can look.
All right, we'll have somebody look for you there.
Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first. The first available deputy
Well,
is responding.
this could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really, I'm afraid for their lives.
Okay, has he threatened the lives of the children previously?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll have the first available deputy contact you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello?
Hi, ma'am. Were you calling about the fire in the 8200 block of
Yes,
on
he
88th Street,
exploded
Tragedies?
the house.
Ma'am, do you know
Yes, he
the
exploded the house.
okay? Do you know the exact address of the house, or are you?
Yes, it's 8119 189th Street, Court East,
Okay.
2 hours.
Okay, stay on line. Do you know if anyone's in the house?
Yes, there was a man and
Okay.
2 children. I just dropped off the children, and he wouldn't let me in the door.
Okay, stay on line for the fire department. Okay, I'm going to get them on the line. Do not hang up. Hold on. Stay on the phone here with me now. Hi, fire. This is Rose. Lisa, transferring a lady who has an exact address of the house that is on fire there in the 188th Street, Court East neighborhood.
Yes? Okay, I would have gave them that exact address. I dropped it, sorry. Just a minute. I can hear the fire trucks, but they're not here yet. It's 8119. There. What? We have an engine there. And people are saying there's not somebody here, but I was just there, and there is somebody here. There's 2 little boys in the house, and they're 5 and 7, and there's an adult man. He has supervised visitation, and he blew up the house and the kids.
The kids and the husband and the father were in the house?
Yes, he slammed the door in my face. So I kept knocking. I thought it was a mistake. I kept knocking, and then I called 911.
You saw him go back into the house when the flame, right before the flames?
He didn't ever leave the house. He just opened the door. The kids were one step ahead of me. They're 5 and 7. They were one step ahead of me, and he slammed the door in my face.
And you think he might have done this intentionally?
Yes.
Okay. County, go ahead with what you need. I'll pass that on to my
Thank you very much, Fire. Ma'am, what is your name, please?
I'm Elizabeth Griffin Hall, and I'm the supervised visit.
Okay, hold on. Elizabeth, hold on just a moment, ma'am. Okay, so your last name is Griffin what?
Griffin Hall, Griffin Hall, Hall.
Okay, and your phone number 3605 is your personal cell number. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
Where are you at right now?
I'm at 81112 on the same court.
Okay, so you're waiting down the street at 8112 109th Street Court, 189th Street Court East.
Yes.
Okay. And are you in your car?
I was in my car. I'm standing outside it right now.
Okay. Is that your home? Is that your home address?
No, that's not my home
Okay.
address. I was the supervised visitation coordinator. I picked the children up. Parents.
What is this person's name?
His name is Josh Powell. Just a minute, the sheriff's here. Let me
Okay.
tell him the
Go ahead and talk.
in the house.
Go ahead and talk.
The dispatcher, first of all, is so annoying, so dismissive, just like, yeah, oh, wait, what? I don't understand. If you're, like, the supervisor, why are you supervising? But, like, just getting so agitated thinking about it. And the supervisor, a woman, I get that it's her job and her duty, and she did the right thing calling. So if I have to be on anyone's side on this, it would have to be with the supervisor. But she annoys me too, man. I'm probably like the only person who feels annoyed by both of these people. She's not articulate, she's not direct, and she's not making it urgent enough. It's so frustrating. Their back and forth is so frustrating because you can literally feel the time passing so slowly, and the police could have already been there like 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going back and forth, and no one is, like, it's just so... Oh, that phone call is frustrating, to say the least. Obviously, I'm on the social worker's side because she obviously did the right thing, and I can appreciate that in a moment of panic, you might be like, I don't know, but he closed the door on me, and he's supposed to supervise. Like, you would be fumbling your words, but I feel like she had to be like, listen, I work for the government. Like, that's like the first thing that should like come out of her mouth. I do these supervised visits. I'm a supervisor for Child Protective Services. I just brought children to meet with their biological father, and he shut the door in my face. He's not allowed to be alone with the kids. I need the police here now. This is urgent. Because he's not allowed to be alone with them, and I fear for their safety. Period. This is the address. Like, just be concise and precise, and just tell them what they have to do instead of going around in circles, being like, I work for the Child Protective Services, and it's so weird, but he like locked the door in my face. I just brought the kids from their parents. Like, who cares? Just get to the point so the police can come. Like, I get so frustrated. I'm so sorry because I'm on her side, but also I'm just so frustrated, like, at this whole exchange. It's just so overdrawn and, like, just cut to the chase. The kids are in there alone with the dad who's not allowed to be alone with them. So then police end up doing an investigation after they extinguish the fire. they were able to find out that Josh had actually used a hatchet on his boys. A hatchet is this right here. And then he lit a match after dousing his entire house with petrol. And he just sat there with like a gas can in between his legs and just allowed the flames to just engulf all of them. And the sad thing is that when they did the autopsy on all of them, they found that the boys didn't die of the hatchet wounds. They actually died of smoke inhalation. So it wasn't even like a quick death for all of them. They were like bleeding and hurt and in pain while they were inhaling fumes, and they died from carbon monoxide poisoning, which just thinking about it and thinking about how this all ties back to the beginning, where the families were worried that Josh's family, the whole family, had passed out from carbon monoxide poisoning. Like they accidentally had left their car on, like they were so scared that they had sent, remember, the police over to do a wellness check. At the beginning of the video I had said that. And now it just like it circled back to that moment, and I was sitting there like watching this, listening to this, being like, that is so awful. How like the universe just works like that. People were scared that that may have happened, and that actually ended up happening. They ended up finding letters from Josh back at Steve's house, basically saying that he was never going to regain custody of his kids, and he couldn't live without his kids. So if he can't live with his kids, he'd rather not be alive at all. But to that, I just say, why kill your children though? Like, it's the thing that I just don't understand, and I'm so frustrated about. I'm trying to be like understanding about the psychology and mental state, a fragile mental state of somebody who is, you know, suicidal, right? But suicide to me does not equate to murder, right? So if you feel in your heart and in your soul that you cannot live without your children, and you're just like, I want the pain to go away of not being able to ever see them grow up or raise them myself, okay? Surely you don't have to take them away from their lives or take their lives away for you not to be here anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can take yourself out of the equation. Like, you can do an unaliving there. I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, but you can also do that and not harm your children. Because either way, you wouldn't be raising your children. Like, if you take yourself out of the equation of life, right? If you unalive, you won't be raising your children. So why also kill them? Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. So in my head, there is absolutely, like, I wanted to be understanding for his hurt, but in my head, there's absolutely no, like, I feel no remorse for this man. I don't feel any type of, like, sorry that you didn't get your kids back. Oh, if you had your kids back, you wouldn't have done that. No, because you could have done that without taking them as well. Like, they had absolutely nothing to do with how you're feeling. Your feelings are yours and yours alone. You can claim that, okay? I appreciate that you're feeling some sort of way. But you don't have to go and murder your children. They were finally having, like, some semblance of a life. Susan's parents actually said when they got custody of the kids and they first came to go live with them, that the children were like skeptical and like weary and quiet and didn't really like, you know, they're just kind of like mousy and just didn't really say much or do anything. And slowly they were starting to become more like, you know, children. Like they were happy and finally talking and doing things kids do, playing and having fun. And like they were opening up finally after God knows how many years of just walking on eggshells and stuff, with Susan like in the house and Josh being weird and his father being weird, and just, you know, those kids were finally having a normal life, and he just plucked them right out of, like, it's so sad. And the fact that Susan's parents not only have no idea what happened to their daughter, but they have to live with the fact that Josh also took their grandkids away. Like, there was a piece of Susan still living in those children, and he just like took them away also. And I can't imagine like the feeling of, they had the responsibility, they had custody over these kids and they were theirs. The court said that they were theirs, and this guy just like, nah, they're not yours. Like, I'm gonna do what I want because they're my kids, and I'm not gonna let you raise them and have a good life. Like, if I have to suffer, I'm gonna make sure everyone does. Like, that is so evil. I'm just gonna say it. Like, that is evil. I have no other words. Just had to be said. I don't think that there was an ounce of humanity in that guy. So police continue the investigation, and they continue interrogating Josh's brother. Remember, the one who scrapped his car in the junkyard and was like inquiring about pictures of the junkyard, like satellite images. That brother who allegedly gave his car to Josh, we're all on the page of he probably lent it, like 100% lent his car to Josh, because the car's just fine, right? Why would you scrap it? Why? If there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, why would you just wouldn't you sell it something? Why would you scrap it in a junkyard? I think, for sure, my opinion, but he lent his car to Josh to help dispose of Susan's body. And he continued to say Josh and Steve are innocent, he's innocent, his whole family is innocent. Since Michael, Josh's brother, was the main beneficiary in Josh's will, he was due to receive $1.5 million from Josh and his kids' life insurance policies. But thank God for Susan's parents, Susan's family disputed this with the company, saying, you know, since they were murdered, nobody should see an ounce of this money, like a penny of this money. Like, nobody should receive any of these payouts. So I can just imagine Michael being so furious at this. But the insurance company, like, already had said that they wouldn't pay anything until the case is terminated and settled anyways. So like, until the case remained open and ongoing, they wouldn't be paying Michael a dime anyway. So the 11th of February 2013, Michael ends up committing suicide by jumping off of his balcony from his building. And that's what I mean when I say there's absolutely just no justice. There's just tragedy after tragedy in this entire case. May 2013, police say the case had gone cold. They suspected Josh and his brother had disposed of Susan's body together. They actually ended up finding that they were using an app or like a communication software that was super highly encrypted kind of like Signal. I don't know if anyone ever uses that on on your phone. You can't hack into that, and police can't find a way to go in there and see what the conversations that they had were about. But like, why else would you use highly encrypted apps or communication software if you have like regular text messaging or like free apps for messaging? Like, why would you want to make sure nobody reads your messages? Like, what is that about? Why are you so iffy about people reading what you're saying unless you're saying something that you don't want people to read? You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure they were using that software to talk to each other about what happened to Susan and like make sure that their alibis like corroborated and stuff like that. But up till today, this day, no one has been able to like hack into that or find a way around to read their conversations. Like, nobody has been able to decrypt the software, basically. If there is one thing that we can feel a little bit of relief from, because I know that this whole entire case has just been like one thing after the other, just pushing us further and further into like this pit of despair. If there's one thing that I can like end on a good note, like, I don't even want to say it a good note because it's just all shitty, isn't it? But Susan's family ended up suing Washington's Department of Social Services, and rightfully so. They said they prioritize keeping Josh happy with his visitations, supervised or not, over the safety of the children. Like, they wanted to make sure that his rights as a parent were maintained rather than like looking out for the benefit of the children's, just their safety in general. So they were basically claiming negligence on the part of the state, and they ended up winning, and they were awarded $98 million to the estate of Susan's two boys. So if I can end on a good note, I suppose that would be it, except I know that no amount of money will ever be able to bring back those two boys or find out what effectively happened to Susan. Like, we still don't know what happened to Susan. We don't have her body. We don't know where her body is. We don't know what happened that day. And because Josh was so selfish, we'll never be able to know. Like, every single person in this case, just like one thing after the other. And he ended up just taking himself, out of the equation, effectively leaving us without any answers. And we just don't know what happened to Susan. But if there's one thing that I can say with certainty, is that if you are capable of using a hatchet on your own flesh and blood children that you helped bring into the world and blow up your entire house with yourself and your children in there, and just make them die of smoke inhalation and being burned alive, essentially. If you're capable of doing that, surely you are also capable of murdering your significant other. Like, there's just logic makes me reason that way. So I can say with a certain amount of certainty to you that I think Josh probably killed Susan. Maybe with or without the help of his brother, Michael, but definitely he had something to do with it. There's no doubt in my mind honestly. My voice is going. I'm so sorry. I will wrap this up. But remember Steve? Remember creepy AF Steve? Whatever happened to Steve, you might ask? Well, Steve gets released in 2017 after only 3 years of his 5-year sentence, right? And he ends up dying of a heart attack shortly after getting out of prison. So, I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, maybe there is a God or the universe talking to us in this way. Like, you let him get out early for good behavior? Nah, we're gonna make sure that he doesn't get to live out the rest of his life, just happy, carefree. Nah, he was supposed to stay there for much longer, and you're just letting him out? Nah, we're just gonna make him die of a heart attack. Like, that's what I am thinking to myself, because, I don't know, I feel like I'm a very spiritual person, and I feel like maybe it's karma, I don't know, but Josh needed to be tried way before any of this, way before even getting the chance to have supervised visits with his sons. Like, there was so much evidence to try him. The box fans, the dogs finding, traces of decomposition, like, in the back of the car. Him and his brother having these creepy encrypted messages. His father having all of her journals, and his story being weird. He going camping, but like during a blizzard, not showing up to work the day that she goes missing. Like, it's just too much of there's too many coincidences for, like, they had enough evidence to try him. And if they had, Josh's kids probably would have been alive today and just living their best life with their grandparents, and he would have just been in jail. Like, he'd be in jail right now if that had happened, instead of just allowing him all of this leniency and giving him the benefit of the doubt and being like, okay, well, you can still have some visits with your kids. Like, you're going to lose custody, but we're going to let you see them several times a week. Just like, no, don't give him the opportunity to do that. Like, there was just so much that could have happened here that didn't, and it frustrates me. There are so many things in this case that frustrate me. But the most frustrating thing is that Susan's case remains unsolved, and we'll never have that closure. We'll never have that, like, closed book solved. We know what happened, or we have her remains, and we can give her, like, a proper burial. Like, her family can have some sort of closure. She's just out there somewhere, and her case still remains unsolved. It's just sad. It's sad, and we'll never know what happened because the entire line of Powell men, like, the whole family, just eradicated. All of the men. Josh's dad, Steve, Michael, Josh, 2 boys, like, all of the Powell men, gone. All of the boys. The whole line is just... it's just sad to think about. I don't know. It gives me the chills. I don't know. It just gives me the creeps to think about. Just... Anyway, I don't even like to say I hope that you enjoy listening to this, because there's nothing enjoyable about hearing people do horrible things in this world, but it's like a reminder to ourselves and to each other that there are people with this sort of, like, capacity to do these things, and to make sure that we, as just a society, prioritize the safety and well-being of children and people who are vulnerable over keeping someone content. Do you know what I mean? So if there's anything that we can take away from this story, it's that we just have to be stricter with how we take care of our most vulnerable in society, and that's women and children, essentially, because we all know that basically women and children are always seen as less than, unfortunately, in our society, in our Western society. So if there's anything that we can take away from this, it's that we make sure to, I don't even know, check up on each other, make sure that our friends who have children are okay, or if they're expressing concerns that something is wrong in their relationship, that they feel supported enough to seek help. Because Susan wrote a lot in her journals, but she never told people if there was something wrong in her relationship. We don't know, because now we don't have Susan to tell us anything about that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you feel like something is off in your relationship, tell someone. Yes, write it down in a journal, in a diary, yes, but also tell people who you're comfortable with. Listen, I'm not 100% certain about this person that I'm living with. Something's wrong, something's off, I don't feel safe. If you're uncomfortable, speak out and don't suffer in silence. I guess that's all I have to say. So I hope that you enjoyed this case telling, and if you could leave me a like and a comment, and subscribe if you want to. I plan to make many more videos on this channel here, and I'm going to kind of shut down the other one because besides the fact that it's not ever going to be monetized again, I want to rebrand and kind of bring it back to a more simple, cozy style of talking, as if we're just, friends talking on the couch with each other, rather than doing my makeup and doing all of these extra things. I just kind of want to keep it very casual and I guess basic. I don't know. But yeah, if you enjoyed, leave me a comment. Tell me about any other cases that you think I should research. I do have a couple that I'm thinking about doing now, and I'm going to be reading a bit of a couple of articles on those now. So yeah, if you have any other comments or suggestions for future videos, let me know. I'd love to hear about them. And yep, stay safe and love you. Bye.